And let's head into the Zoom room and check out our neighbors to the north with Kevin Bautista, the CNMI governor's office. Good morning, Kev. Thanks for joining us.
Alfred, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Bree. It's good to see you both again. How's it going?
Very good, very good.
How's it going?
It's going well. Vaccinations is going pretty smoothly here in CNMI. We just distributed our second stimulus checks, EIP2, via direct deposit 2 days ago.
Via direct deposit.
About almost 9,000 checks went out via direct deposit to many of our residents. And then we have about 25,000 paper checks that are going to be going out within the next few days.
Nice. You know, we've been having issues with the PUA and the eligibility criteria in terms of if you have reduced work hours, you cannot qualify. Is that the same situation you guys are battling over there?
We are definitely experiencing the same problems right now in terms of both the interpretation of the Continued Assistance Act, as well as how we are implementing this next phase of the rollout for the second round of pandemic unemployment assistance. So far, right now, in terms of how we're interpreting it and how we're also getting congressional intent, is we are advocating for folks who have their hours reduced to continue receiving PUA payments. That's a very important thing for us personally, just because the CNMI has been faced with austerity measures, both since the typhoon season of 2018, the corresponding economic depression in 2019, and then the economic impact in 2020 has really forced people to be both out of work and folks who've had to have their hours reduced. So folks who are eligible and have their incomes eligible for receiving PUA and having their hours reduced, that's a big portion of our population. We continue to advocate to make sure that we get both the proper congressional, understanding the proper congressional intent, getting proper legal counsel, and then working it through. But we are still looking at making sure that we can get those guys eligible for those second round of PUA payments.
Okay. Did you guys also get the same feedback as our Guam Department of Labor director did in terms of all the in Pool 1 that they weren't supposed to get it? These reduced
about the folks who are receiving it with their hours reduced.
Yeah. Did you guys get the same?
In terms of the guidance, I can't really say specifically if the guidance was requested directly. I know. I was just watching how Guam made the request. I know they did it I know they did it in a little bit of a different way. But what we did was we continue to give people who had their hours reduced that PUA payment. We have the conference calls of the U.S. Department of Labor. The Secretary of Labor, Vicky Beneventi, continues to provide me some updates on that, and she has stated that U.S. DOE has approved their plans and have improved the implementation so far, which included the payment of folks who have had their hours reduced during PUA 1. And we're going to continue to seek the guidance for you as we go.
So you guys are paying people with reduced work hours currently for the PUA 2 program?
Yes, as it stands right now. Yes.
Okay.
And then we're and then I'll monitor that closely as we move forward. But so far, we did put out a press release though that they may be ineligible for PUA 2. As we continue to do the adjudication of the claims. So this continues to be an evolving discussion. Right. But then so far, per the Secretary of Labor here in CNMI, we're going to continue to do it until U.S. DOE formally tells us to not do it.
Okay. But then there might be that possibility that those that are receiving this PUA 2 that are on reduced work hours, they may have to pay it back.
Yeah, we left that disclaimer within our local press releases open.
Okay.
One of the things that also was an additional piece to the CNMI's implementation of PUA was the inclusion of our CW visa workers. That's a specific worker visa classification specifically for the CNMI. So the governor's office, together with the congressional office, Congressman Keely Sablon and Governor Torres, we worked on ensuring that we can get language to get CWs eligible as a qualified alien for this second round of PUA 2. So that particular piece specific to the CNMI has been included for our implementation for the second round.
Is there any update on tourism? Have you guys reopened? Because I know during the speech before the Rotary, the governor was saying by around mid-January or so. So have you guys already reopened?
Yes, that's a great question. So obviously due to the evolving nature of the pandemic and our communication with the source markets in Korea and Japan, the reopening of tourism has formally been pushed back. We're now moving it to February, just because we haven't received the formal government correspondences from Korea to formally open up the travel bubble. So we're still working on that. The progress has been moving quite steadily, but one of the biggest things for us is ensuring that is to get that agreement put in place, and then also activating a lot of our private tourism partners within the source markets to get them ready to go as we get these formal government agreements in place. So that conversation's still ongoing. But in terms of how we're doing here domestically and locally, we're doing a really good job in terms of educating the public that we are looking to reopening tourism. I think that the community success and the proactive leadership has really allowed us to be in this position where we can reopen, be among the first, if not the first in the Pacific, to reopen tourism, and be able to do it in a way that's both conscious of our public health priorities while being also cognizant of the need to get our economy truly back up and running. Because it's more than just small businesses and getting them up and running, because we have a lot of our domestic small businesses wide open and pretty much back to normal operations. It's that.
Why do I have this feeling you're bragging?
No, I'm not trying
I'm just kidding. You guys are doing an awesome job. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, but again, it's still a push and pull, you know, like it's a constant battle that we have to deal with a lot of economic externalities, which includes getting those agreements in place. Those agreements have not been formally established. The governor, MVA, the Mariners Visitors Authority, they've been working very diligently and with our private partners to get this up and running. The communication has been made with the South Korean Ministry of Tourism, and as well as communication with both with Japan, as well as getting some support from U.S. mainland partners as well to get this fully up and running. And I think with our what I'd like to say is our positive vaccination rate, our low case count, our lack of community transmission in almost 150 days. I think that's if anyone's going to reopen now, it's going to be us, and hopefully we can continue to get there as soon as possible.
Yeah, hey Kev, this is Jace. I know Bree and Chris just love to just playfully rib you about are you flexing or anything like that. But I'm curious. Has the governor of the CNMI been solicited by other world leaders, because New Zealand is often credited as a leading example of how to properly lock down a country and recover very well. There are certain other countries. Has the governor been approached by other territories, other international partners, or have you guys even maybe put something together to say this could be a case study to help regional partners in how you might be able to do it in your own place?
So great question, Jace. Thank you. Two answers to that question. The first would be that I think organically the CNMI story of being able to properly lock down, be able to do it in a way that's both safe and community oriented. That story has been shared with some media partners that have picked it up in the States. This includes Real Clear Health, the Washington Times, and former congressional staffers that are still connected to the Hill have already picked up the story, and have referenced the CNMI as a case study for this point. In terms of other leaders around the region reaching out, I know that the governor has been in close contact with a lot of the leaders within Micronesia. I know that a lot of best practice sharing has been made. While at the same time, also the Western Governors Association has reached out, and I was just talking to the governor about this last week. I had to give him the latest case count for the CNMI, and I asked him playfully, like, what's it for? And then he pretty much said, I was going to give it over to the Western Governors Association. One of the governors in the Western Governors Association wanted to know how we were doing, and he pretty much stated that they were really impressed. And for us, we take the accolades as it comes, but I think the biggest thing for us really is just to reopen tourism. I think that's going to be our biggest barometer of success, because, almost 150 days of last community transmission is great and all, continuing to protect the Monamco, continuing to protect people with pre-existing conditions. That's always been the priority since January of 2020, as the first territory to lock down and be cognizant of those Asian flights coming in out of China and South Korea. But then moving forward, I think is that if we can get ourselves back to our definition of true normalcy would be getting back to a level of reopening tourism properly and safely, and getting it to be both a community-oriented approach, because we're facing the pushback here locally as well. Just as with everyone who is nervous about seeing that being a threat, and we continue to just outline the fact that most of the cases that we identify at the border in our quarantine process has been through the U.S. mainland, Hawaii, and the Guam route. So that classic United route to get into the CNMI has been where we're seeing the most, if not all, the COVID identification. So we're trying to make sure that we can make the case to reopen the source markets. Mm-hmm. And we know that just as an island economy, our viability is dependent on those three source markets: China, Korea, and Japan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'd say it's probably inevitable. It's only a matter of time before world countries, maybe later on this spring or maybe even to the summer, when they start saying they begin to be using their own safety, their level of safety and the status at which they're operating as like a marketing driver. And they begin to say, like, okay, well, we're Honolulu, we're totally safe. We're Cairns, Australia, we're safe too. And, and they begin to use that as, like as a sales pitch. Which I think totally bodes in your favor as far as reopening tourism.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a great point. We're doing that too. We've been running that language through multiple channels, both formally and informally. Obviously, just the way that governments work and communicate with each other. But at the same time too, I think it's just a matter of getting those formal agreements in place. The formal government agreements are really the ones that we're looking to push forward and perpetuate. So once we get those things arranged and locked in, that's when the real fun begins, in terms of having to both manage it all while also getting the revenue that we desperately need as an island economy.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us some numbers? How many people have been vaccinated over in the CNMI?
So far, as of this morning, we have vaccinated about 9,325 people in the CNMI. That roughly translates to about 12 to 13% of our population, which is pretty good. That's exactly where we want to be by the end of this month. The governor's plan is, along with CHEC, is to eventually, we have this hopeful, optimistic goal that we can get our people vaccinated at a rate of 90% by the summer. It's a big ask, but then the governor's been working with both CHEC and a lot of the private health partners who have been significantly helping us in getting everyone vaccinated, both the first dose and the second dose. And they've even said that we can, if we can get that 90% number by the summer. So we're hopeful we can get that through. But again, the pandemic is going to continue to constantly evolve, and at the end of the day, we're always subject to the federal government's supply of vaccines. And a lot of the states and territories are facing both vaccine shortages and not knowing what number of vaccine is coming in during a specific shipment. So we're subject to those things to supply supply problems. So but the demand is high. Like everyone's the good thing about this, I think, and I'm speaking both uniformly across the board. I think that whole anti-vax issue is not really a problem as much anymore. I mean, that's the way that we're seeing it here. You got little sprinkles of people kind of saying, "Oh, I heard about the side effects. I heard about that." But then, for the most part, because they're seeing a lot of their family members getting the vaccine, that's forcing them to get out of their comfort zone and get that vaccination for their families and friends. We've just recently opened up vaccinations for Tinian and Rhoda. They both got vaccinated. About 200 people almost 200 people on each island have been vaccinated. I think about 140 on Rhoda, 111 on Tinian. And then we also reopened our priority groups to include people who are 55 years and older now. So we're at that point of our priority phase.
So the goal here is herd immunity by July 21st. Let me guess, y'all are going to achieve herd immunity by June.
We're doing our best. The governor has been really listening to the science, been really working with our great CEO Esther Munoz and the CHEC leadership. That herd immunity is important. That's going to be that real step to really locking in the normalcy of tourism. But then again, we want to get tourism opened. We couldn't reach our January goal as we wanted to, but then hopefully we can get it done by February. Japan and Korea, they're facing their own set of problems, and we have to continue to watch and be observant of that. But it's a frustrating act. I think that balancing both public health priorities and reopening the economy, that was the consistent public administration battle everywhere around the country. And I think for us, we were dealing with the same thing.
Kev, with Korea and Japan having their share of problems with the virus, and you guys want to reopen tourism, there's a whole Guam market.
Yep, exactly.
I know a lot of people from Guam would love to go up to the NMI because you guys don't have COVID. But there's a little issue of the quarantine requirement. So.
Let me guess. The boarding pass is going to say Barnett, Chris. Row 3, row 3, seat A.
I'm just saying, there's probably some willing tourists here on our island that would love to go up and
Hey guys, if we do a link on location to CNMI, I call shotgun on the window seat. All right.
Got it. Yeah.
Well, that would be dope, man. Like it would be great to see a Link episode being filmed over here.
Oh, that would be.
As long as we want to go on the fishing trip though.
Hey, well, actually, Kev, I appreciate the fact how you brought up Japan, because I mean this might be a stretch. So correct, jump in if I'm just being weird here, but should the Olympic Games happen this summer, right? And say with international travel being what it is and everything, has the government of the CNMI anticipated if you are to be used as a secondary airport, if Guam isn't able to handle it because of the state we're in, or if they reroute flights, are you guys anticipating that being a thing as people commute to or from Japan, from Tokyo?
That's such an interesting question. I wouldn't say that we've thought about that as being a secondary airport to connect to Japan. There's this talk about Japan not doing the 2021 Olympics altogether, and some countries jumping on the opportunity to host it instead. I know, I think Florida, some state official from Florida said that since we can host the NBA COVID bubble, where the Lakers won the championship, I think that they're talking about the best practices of doing a sports bubble in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and then possibly hosting the 2021 Olympics instead of Japan. We've been reading about that. For us here in the CNMI, in terms of sporting events, we're actually hosting the 2022 Pacific Mini Games, which was supposed to actually take place this year, 2021, but we're moving that to 2022, and then we're also thinking about those safety measures that we have to deal with to bring in athletes from around the Pacific, from around the Micronesian area. So that's going to be another balancing act. But in terms of Japan, and it's really difficult. I think Saipan being a secondary airport connection for that's going to be subject to the FAA anyway. They determine the flights, they determine the routes and establish it with the airlines, and the federal guidance would have to be put out in order for us to be able to do that anyway.
Yeah, like I said, that might have been a stretch, but I know that logistically that's a real tricky one. But given your geographic location and everything like that, I mean, is that might even be a possibility? I'm not sure.
That's a good point. I think naturally a lot of people are going to have to start looking at that, and maybe CPA will be able to talk to the FAA about navigating through that possibility if it does come. But I know that we haven't been considered, even pre-COVID, we haven't really been considered as a connecting flight to Japan from the U.S. mainland. I know Guam has been, because Guam is the United hub for this part of the Western Pacific anyway. So this is pretty much like the launching pad from the Western Pacific to be able to go to Japan from the U.S. mainland anyway. So I think that's going to be something that's primary, and then if they bring in the CNMI as a secondary hub, then we'll see how that goes and how that translates to us being a part of it.
Well, Kev, thanks for your time this morning. I don't know if these guys got to ask you about the gala.
No. The gala.
There's a gala coming up.
The gala.
Okay.
Yeah. When you texted me about that, Chris, I laughed because it was just like, oh yeah, I forgot we're having a gala, and like it's granted a socially distanced gala, but it's a gala nonetheless. For our Saipan Chamber of Commerce Business Person of the Year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just I think taking, like, for the CNMI is not taking good leadership and community success for granted. And the one thing for us is really making sure that we continue this story of success. I think that our public health officials and our governor and our leadership have been working hand in hand every day to make sure that we are in this position and that we do not drop the ball, because I think if we drop the ball even one time, then that's it for us, and then it becomes a slippery slope of us, generating a large surge of COVID cases, which we know for sure as an island healthcare system we can't handle.
Right.
And we're looking at a lot of the practices that are happening around the region to make sure that we don't end up failing in that regard. Right. Because there's no room for failure.
Yeah, there is a gala. There is
a gala.
Yeah, there is a gala, guys.
So what are you wearing?
Top story, KUAM. They're having a gala in the CNMI.
I'm just gonna assume Kev's gonna wear USC crimson and gold. I'm just assuming.
It's funny. I went to the gala last year, but I'm not going this year because I got homework to do. But I know that a lot of my friends were nominated for Young Professional of the Year. Some colleagues were nominated for Business Person of the Year and Small Business Person of the Year during a very tough economic year. So just getting nominated, and all success to them. I love seeing that when we can just get together and support the business community.
Yep, totally not jealous over here, but Kev. I mean, regionally though, guys, with Guam, and we had our bumps in the road. We lost a lot of people, but the FSM, the CNMI, and now Guam, as we kind of posture towards a return to normalcy, I do think regionally we've fared so much better than so many other places in the world. Kev.
Viva CNMI!
All right. Thanks, Kev.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Bree.
See you.
What's up, everybody? Thanks.
always a little bit of friendly competition with Kevin.